Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Playing Your Cards Right. As always, I am your host, Matthew, with my awesome co-host,
Dr. Sam.
And today we got a good one for you. And first of all, before we get too far into the podcast, welcome to all of our new listeners. Hopefully, if you found this podcast, you probably found it through our first guest that we're getting ready to have next week, who also will probably be one that we have on quite a bit, who also happens to be my best buddy of like 34, 35 years. So it's going to be fun.
I think so. Our first topic with him will be a good topic.
So, welcome to all the new people. We're excited you're here. Definitely go back and listen to all of our past episodes. I think we're all the way caught up, or there's maybe one more episode I need to throw on all of our other streaming sites. For those of you loyal listeners to the podcast that we have, we finally made the transition over to the big boy platforms. And basically on every streaming platform almost out there, minus Apple. Apple's giving me some trouble.
Go figure, though.
Yeah, go figure. Had to be Apple. But I think we will probably be able to figure it out. I think I know what's going on with it. So we'll try this week to see if we can get Apple added to the list. And if we can get Apple added to the list, then we'll basically be on all platforms almost. Yep. So that'll be awesome. And hopefully, if everything works correctly, we will also have our show intro actually running on YouTube. So that would be awesome.
I just let you handle all that techie stuff.
Hey, the techie stuff is cool shit. Just saying. It's good stuff. I think so.
I can do the talking.
Yeah, we all know that.
Listen. It's fine.
It's okay.
It's fine.
And we're also joined by our other pet co-host here, Mr. Rocky. The always ever third co-host that has to show up.
That's because he has dependency issues.
Well,
and severe separation anxiety.
It's okay.
Mine might wander up here, but I left him snoozing on the couch.
It's okay. Just Rex is a good boy. If we get the show stuff working, then in our outro video, people will get to see Jax and Rocky. If we can make it work. So.
Oh yeah, and I just want to say that I'm the one who took the picture we plan on using.
I know. It's because I was busy driving. Somebody has to pay attention to the road.
Better you than me.
It is what it is. So, so a little podcast update. Like we're saying, Gene will be next week. That's going to be an awesome episode. I think a lot of people will get a lot of good things out of it. I think it'll be very informative and very, very real. And get very real very quick.
Yeah.
So, I know a lot of people don't like to live in the getting real reality world, but
we need it. And I think that, between my background and where he's at, I think between the two of us, we've got some good information to hopefully help people, if nothing else, make an informed decision before they decide to adopt. I think some people make a very impulsive decision about that.
Or even foster care.
Absolutely. And it looks pretty on paper, but that, it's just not reality. And so we want to give everyone a good look into that.
Because it's not just, there's a lot, obviously, that goes into adopting, being a foster parent, etc., but no one really talks about the battle that it's going to play in your marriage and your relationship. His fell apart.
Well, and not to mention what it does to the kids. there's a lot that goes on with a kiddo, and we'll talk a little bit about it today, so I don't want to get too much into it this early. But, you know, it definitely takes a toll on everybody involved. You know, it takes a toll on the adoptive parents, the biological parents, the caseworker, the judge who has to make decisions, and all those who are involved with it.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. I think it's going to be great. It'll be a good one. But we'll definitely have some more shows with Gene that aren't necessarily as heavy.
Oh yeah.
He's a good jokester.
Oh yeah, he's funny, and so it'll be good to see, you know, him on not so heavy topics, but like I said, he's gonna have some good insight. What are you doing?
Yeah, you know. So Gene, for those who do not follow him on TikTok or anything like that, he is on. He does Facebook Reels and stuff like that, but they're basically from his TikTok. His TikTok name is Black Bear, so go give him a follow. He's done a lot to give us some shout outs, so definitely want to return the favor this week, and then of course obviously next week whenever he's here. But let's see if we can help him increase his base a little bit, because somebody somewhere, we don't know who, because the new application that we're using to put our podcast together and get it out to all those sites will actually give us some analytics that show where people are listening from. And so obviously, you know, we have the ones that are around here in Tulsa, Missouri, whatever. But then it says we have some people in San Francisco, some in like New York area, and then apparently they have somebody in Brussels.
Yeah.
So whoever you are in Brussels, shout out to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because
and if that's you, comment so we know who you are.
Yes.
Because we're genuinely curious. Because we sat there one night when Matthew was looking through everything on the analytics, and we were stumped. I mean, I have a brother in Germany, but not in Brussels. So I don't think it would be him.
Unless it was painting a tower near he when he downloaded it or something.
So Joel, if it's you should probably let your sister know.
Yeah, shout out. It
but
might
if
be
it's
helpful.
not, we would like to know who you are. And just say hi.
Yeah.
We're not scary. Well, I'm not scary.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We're genuinely interested because Brussels is if you're not related to either of us, then it's kind of out there and shocking, and it'd be kind of awesome.
Well, even ours up by New York or San Francisco, like, we're interested in that. And
yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's just kind of shocking because, I mean, our podcast is so new that, you know, you see someone listening from Brussels, it's like, wait, what? Okay. I mean, I'm good with it. It's very interesting, put it that way. Now, especially if we had someone from, like, Australia or something like that, that'd be crazy.
Well, there's time.
There's time. Well, it might grow. We'll see what happens after next week.
You never know.
You never know. So, we'll get into it today. First, we want to start off with a little sports news update that we've kind of been talking about the last few podcasts. The whole Deshaun Watson saga. So
he's sleazy.
Yeah, he's very sleazy. So obviously NFL came down with their thing, and suspended for 6 games.
And they have to be served at the beginning of this season, is what I saw.
Yeah,
because
week
sometimes,
1.
sometimes they let you pick and choose which games, but he was not given that choice. It was an automatic the first 6 games, which I liked that idea. That way, they could
6 games isn't enough, in my opinion.
No, I would agree with that, but I'm glad that they didn't let him or the team pick and choose which 6 games it was going to be.
Normally you don't get to choose per se. It's you can fight it, and
our other pet co-host came in.
You don't necessarily get to choose. You get to fight it, and it may not necessarily start right away whenever it's supposed to if you fight it. But he's getting to play in preseason games, and he had an interview before their first preseason game in Jacksonville, and he said that, "I want to say that I'm truly sorry to all the women I have impacted in this situation. The decisions I made in my life that put me in this position I would definitely like to have back, but I want to continue to move forward and grow and learn and show that I am a true person and character, and I'm going to keep pushing forward." It's like, okay.
Which is all fine and dandy. But here's my thing. Like, you still did something wrong. So...
Allegedly.
Right, allegedly. I just don't think I buy the apology.
It's definitely somebody that, apparently there was a profane chant from the crowd, and he's just going to have to listen to it all year long. Cause
and I'm okay with that. If it were to come out that he were completely innocent, okay, I would feel bad, and then I would say, the people need to not do that anymore. But he's sleazy.
Oh yeah.
He shouldn't have done it. He knew better.
Yep. So
I call those natural consequences.
Let's see. The Broncos beat the Cowboys.
Well,
first
obviously.
preseason game. It's only preseason, but
I would have been so disappointed if they hadn't. Like, it's the Cowboys.
So there's that. The 49ers beat the Packers. Of course, this is obviously just preseason, but
yeah,
there's some things that can be learned from it. The Little League World Series, something I want to kind of shine light to Team Oklahoma.
yeah.
Props to them. So they are from Tulsa. The Oklahoma team was from Tulsa. Tulsa national team. Some parents that have kids on the team, and my boss at work from here in Oklahoma, she actually, her daughters are best friends with one of the guys on the team. They made it further than any Oklahoma team has. Unfortunately, they lost in the regional championship to Pearland, Texas, which was sad that they unfortunately lost that game, but I was kind of cheering for either one because my aunt and uncle live close enough to Pearland. I mean, it's right there, right next to Friendswood, Texas, suburb of Houston, so it was kind of, obviously I would love to have seen the Oklahoma team win, but the reason why I got to give major props is the incredible sportsmanship shown by this young kid. He got drilled in the head, essentially. It's close enough to his head anyway. He went down, and the umpire was like, "Oh God," and because he thought it was going to be bad, whatever. He was just had his bell rung a little bit and shook it off. Got down to first base and noticed that the Pearland pitcher was upset, crying because he thought he really had hurt him, whatever. So he threw off his helmet and ran over to the pitcher's mound and hugged him. Told him, "Hey, I'm gonna be all right. It's okay. Everything's good, whatever. And you're doing a good job." And just an incredible display of sportsmanship that man, he's 12, 13 years old and he's acting more mature than some big leaguers.
Well, and it wasn't even just that, because I had been seeing before you and I even talked about them being in the Little League World Series. You know, they were making friends with all the other teams at their hotel, and
Yep, they became friends with Mississippi.
Yeah, and so they were, having good exchanges with them before the game, and wanted them to do well, and genuinely meant it. And I think that's such a great age for them, because they're learning to find themselves, and when they do these things on their own without prompting from their parents, it just goes to show you that they genuinely are good kids.
Yep, no, it was very impressive to see sportsmanship be like that. That was very cool.
Yeah.
Definitely being raised right definitely makes Oklahoma proud. So, huge props to Team Oklahoma for that. And then their parents too, of course. And then the Tulsa Drillers game last night. So we went to the Drillers game last night. This week they are changing their team name. It's a little gimmick thing that they've done. They started a couple years ago. They became the Tulsa Noodlers. So,
yes.
For those of you going, okay, what the hell is a noodler? So, noodling is a form of catching catfish that you essentially jump down and to the water and catch fish, and they grab a hold of your arm and you pull them up with your bare hand. Now, a lot of people will wear gloves and etc. But it was really, it's kind of funny, but the jerseys are freaking fire.
I do like the jerseys. I like that they are so bright.
It's neon green. They're neon green and blue.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome color combination. But we got to sit in the club level. Our actual seats
there's no other way to do a game in the hot summer than that. It was fun. We had, fairly good view. Outside, people walking in front, but you'd have that anywhere you sit, really.
Yeah, we could have sat on the patio. We actually had actual seats down below the club level. I mean, it's still club level seating, whatever. And those seats are more comfortable than the other seats, whatever. But it would have been outside, but sitting at the around the bar area drinking and cold drinks and the food right there, you couldn't really beat it, because I mean, we were able to do that. We watched a little bit of some UFC fight. So
yeah, the bartenders were getting real into that.
So
it was kind of funny watching them and hearing them while we were watching the game.
So it was good. So I think we are a couple weeks away from our first OSU football game of the year.
Yeah.
So we'll be seeing that we did a short video there. Our plans for Tampa are finalized. So we will be going to Tampa for Labor Day weekend. So the GoPro will be with us. So there will be some videoage that we'll be throwing out there. So
yeah.
But today we kind of on the second half of what we want to talk about. We want to talk about kind of a little preview setup to get things ready for Gene's visit next week. The podcast probably will be out a little earlier than normal next week, because he is coming here Monday. So after we edit it and do all that good stuff, it'll be out as soon as we can. So it'll probably be out before our usual upload times, but we kind of wanted just to set a good foundation of that talk, and we have a crazy dog in here. We might include in the video. He's losing his mind. He's can't really exactly see his face, but I'm sure it's
He's special.
I'm sure it's golden. He's just digging all the attention.
Well, I mean, he does like getting all the pets, and when he doesn't get them, then that's when he licks you. So.
Yep. Yep. Thank you. So, this is going to be a more Sam-centered podcast.
Yep.
Since she kind of what she did a little bit, things she saw. There's definitely some things in there that I've dealt with for schooling and whatever, so, and learned about and kind of know about, so go ahead.
Yeah, so as he mentioned, this was kind of in preparation for our podcast with Jean next week. And honestly, it's a topic that has really been an interest of mine since high school. If you've never read A Child Called It, and then the second book to that, The Lost Boy, you really ought to if you think you can stomach it. Because it is very graphic about the author's child abuse that he experienced. They are very quick reads, but definitely graphic in nature. But I just encourage you to read them. So anyway, if this doesn't flow real well, that's because my dog had to get kicked out. But anyway, definitely take a read. Again, it's A Child Called It. That's the first book. The second one is The Lost Boy. It'll make you. It's the harsh reality of what kids in America face behind closed doors. In some situations. But the topic I want to talk about today in the psychology world is known as nature versus nurture. So when you look at nature, you're looking at your environment, you're looking at the DNA, the biological makeup of a child or a human. And then the nurture, is affection. It's also interactions and care for a child early on, and how those two things may or may not affect a person when they become an adult. So Matthew, my question for you, do you think it's one's DNA or the environment that determines how a person will turn out?
Both.
Okay. I agree. And I've got a lot of experience with this, working with kids and even the adults at my current job. One thing that I get asked a lot is, well, it's just a baby. Why do I need to give it attention? Why do I need to give it affection? Why do I need to go beyond just very basic needs? Well, for an infant, those are your basic needs. Without those things, and so this is looking more at that nature, or the nurture side of things. Without love and affection and coddling and things like that early on, you're risking things like developmental delays, empathy not developing. And for those of you who know much about the empathy world, when a person lacks the empathy, that's when they tend to develop antisocial personality disorder, also known as a psychopath. And you're looking at that starting day one. And so, I've always been one to say, your child's crying, go pick it up. Don't let them scream it out. What is that teaching them? They need something that they're not getting. Neglect is also part of the nature side of things. Because if you're not teaching your child different skills such as speech, if you're not having a conversation with your baby or your 1 or 2 year old, how can we expect their speech to develop? And that's just like a big one that would be very obvious. Something that happens that's not so obvious is when there's enough neglect for an infant or young child, they can develop trauma brain. And if you have never seen what a trauma brain looks like, go Google it. There are images that show you where a brain literally stops developing because they've been neglected. The brain literally will stop growing until they are no longer being neglected again. So, I've got a cousin who is adopted, and in what would be my professional opinion, definitely has some of this going on due to neglect in infancy and early childhood. And when he was removed from biological parents and placed with my aunt and uncle, they immediately started working on age-appropriate behaviors, and such as potty training, eating with a fork and a spoon, sitting at a table to eat, things that we don't even think of necessarily because we just learned these things. But when you're neglected, you don't learn those skills. And so that's just a few of the reasons why neglect in infancy is such a problem for someone as they get older. One of the big, I don't want to say arguments, but one of the big discussions in mental health is the biology makeup for mental illness. So does your biology predetermine your mental health? Well, it can. Things like bipolar, if you have a family member with bipolar, chances are you're predisposed to that, so the chances are you could potentially develop that. Same with depression or anxiety. One of the ones that I don't see as being a biological mental illness would be post-traumatic stress disorder, because that's as a result of trauma, not your biological makeup. However, if you experience trauma while in utero, such as if mom's part of domestic violence, if mom is using drugs or alcohol, things like that, that will definitely change your biological makeup. And then potentially you're born with some kind of developmental disability or delay, or other form of mental illness, whether that be something that we call fetal alcohol syndrome. It may have alcohol in the name, but it comes from any substance use. So that's pot, that's other street drugs, that's alcohol. All of these things come into play in the nature versus nurture argument, and how that affects a baby when they become an adult. When So something that I had a lot of experience with when it comes to nature versus nurture is looking at a child's environment. I used to work in homes with kids who have mental illness, anything from ADHD to major depressive disorder, PTSD, oppositional defiance disorder, you name it, they had it. And one of the first things I would do in a home is see how chaotic a home is. Because the chaos in a home can affect a child. It affects ourselves as adults. I know that if my house is messy, my anxiety gets higher because I feel so out of control. Kids feel the same thing. You know, one thing that I saw a lot was dirty homes. Whether that was clutter, whether that was bugs, it didn't matter. If those things were not addressed and taken care of, I could not address the mental illness of the child and could not work with them on that. A prime example, I had a family of 7 that I worked with. The mom had 3 biological kids, the dad had 4, and they were a blended family. And they had a chronic lice problem, which then was a problem because mom would not take care of it at home. She would not clean the sheets, the bedding, the pillows, the stuffed animals, vacuuming. She would not do any of those things. And then the kids would go to school, they'd have live bugs in their hair, they'd come home early, get kicked out of school because they had lice. So then they are losing out on friendship, social interaction, they're losing out on their education, they're losing out on potentially their lunch that day, depending on when in the day the bugs were found. And this took a toll on the kids. Every single one of those 7 kids was at risk. I had one who was in a specialized school for autism, and he was at risk for getting kicked out because he had missed so many days. I had one who was at risk for failing grades because she had been kicked out so many times. I had one who was so depressed that because she never thought she'd get rid of them, that she was willing to just shave her head. And she didn't want to, but she felt like that was her last resort for it. And so all of those things in the home are things that could be addressed. Mom could vacuum. They had a vacuum. She could plug it in. She could use it. But why did mom not want to do it? Well, when you dug in deeper, mom had trauma that she had not addressed from her own childhood and was now displacing some of that on her current children. And so a lot of it just goes in just to show how much these things affect each other and then in turn affect a child going into adulthood. A big one is, you know, if a child is raised being sexually abused, if they don't get treatment, chances are they will perp on another child. and we want to try and stop that cycle. And that's where I feel like Children's Division tries to come into play. And so then we remove those kids from those homes, and then we place them in a home hoping that it's better than where they came from. And that, you know, some of the time it is, but some of the time it's not. And I even worked in foster homes that environment was not conducive for that child. And I would have to advocate for them to have a new foster home. Because again, they weren't getting what they needed for different reasons. Anything from no advocacy at school for an IEP to they were reporting abuse to me in that home. and everything in between. So I would say, you know, Matthew, you said it both do affect, and it does affect how we become adults. You know, if you're raised to be a hard worker, then that's what you know in your job, is to work hard. If you were not taught things like chores, chances are, unless you chose to break that cycle, your home's probably not the neatest. And it all goes back to what you're taught and the nature and, you know, your family, the nurture you got and all that stuff. But yeah, so a big thing to look at with that is just how trauma and if it's treated or not at that point, you know, because we've had families that are really good families but choose not to get treatment for their child when something traumatic has happened, and then their child is at risk in adulthood. But that goes back to, again, nurturing, like doing what you need to for your child.
But at some point too, this is where the medical healthcare insurance industry has completely failed.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say most of my clients working with children had Medicaid. I had a small handful that had private insurance, and so Missouri Medicaid did cover their treatment. They did get medication management, they got therapy, they got case management, and those three working together as a team are really beneficial for a child. Because, you know, the therapist can work on the trauma and helping them process. The medications can help with the symptoms, and the caseworker can help them implement the skills learned in therapy in the home or in the school, out in the community, where they're more likely to have their symptoms escalated. And so I will say that's one thing Missouri Medicaid is good about, as well as if we have to hospitalize a kid. The downside is if behavior or symptoms are bad enough and they need long-term care, that's where everybody has the problem. And that's Medicaid, private insurance, both. And unless you can afford about $10,000 a month, you're probably going to be on a waiting list.
Which brings in a whole slew of the whole entire, you know, is this where universal health care would help or not? All that, which that can get into a lengthy discussion of what's right, what's not necessarily right, etc., etc. But there definitely is a mental health crisis in this country and in the world. Even in places where they do have universal health care, mental health still isn't that great. So, fortunately, it's definitely that people in our generation realize it's an issue. Whatever, not to say that the past ones didn't, but past ones were kind of more, you know, well, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, etc., etc. Whatever, not really necessarily realizing that, oh, well, maybe there's something that actually is wrong.
Right.
So.
Well, and going with that, I mean, not even at the government level then. I mean, I don't know how many times I heard from parents, well, they'll just get over it. Why aren't they just getting over it? Well, they can't. They don't have the tools. And they need the tools. Well, I went through stuff when I was their age and I got over it. My first question is, but did you really?
You're masking it.
Because chances are they didn't. Otherwise, they would know, okay, let's start doing these things. And there's just so much stigma to mental health that with as far as we've come in fighting that, it's still there. And it's one of those things that's like, is it ever going to go away?
No, I mean, part of I don't want to get too much into it, but Gene himself had to go to therapy just due to PTSD, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Post-traumatic stress that he was dealing with from his divorce, from his relationship. I'm sure he will tell you it was not necessarily coming out sideways on the kids, but it definitely screws with your brain, screws with your relationships that he was trying to have, forming new dating world relationships and the traumas and triggers and all that he was having to deal with. And it just wasn't working for him because he'd be in a good spot with a relationship and he'd freak out because of a trigger. Something would set him off or whatever. And so that's his story. I'm not going to get too much into it, but he didn't even really knew that he needed to go until his son's therapist basically was saying, hey, something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And he was like, say what? So, he's gone through it. He'll definitely be able to speak to, you may not even know that you necessarily need it, but others do.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm screwed because you'll just let me know.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you. Be like, do you need to go spend some time at my work, honey?
I'm like, no, your work. I'm talking to somebody. I ain't going to your work. I mean, it might be a nice vacation from work, but
depends on who your roommate is.
Yeah, no, I don't really want to hang out with Tulsa's finest.
You're lost.
Tulsa's finest in the homeless community. That is not necessarily Tulsa's finest cops.
I think our deputies are fantastic.
Well, I'm not knocking the deputies, but they're not. It wouldn't be my roommate. That would be the problem. So.
But that's just a small insight into nature versus nurture and the discussion there. I always encourage you guys to look up the information and make your own determination of what you see and how you interpret it and how your thoughts and opinions are on it. Because I'm just one person. Now, granted, I have been studying it for a long time, but I develop my own opinions. And I don't expect you to agree with them. If you think it's all nature, that's great. Let's talk about it. If it's all nurture, okay, we'll talk about that too. Not a problem. Or
Well,
if you don't think it's either of it,
then you might need to talk to your therapist.
or we can discuss your concerns there.
Because they both play a role.
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
Again, your opinion.
Hmm?
I said again, your opinion.
Yeah. My opinion just happens to be right.
Oh, goodness. You see what I put up with, people?
Yeah, It all makes sense to me. If you're raised in a shitty situation or shitty whatever, that's all you know.
But
Not say that you can't come out of it, but you're
let's
gonna
stop that cycle for your children or your future children.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Things can be broken. I mean, that's the good thing. So it's not like it's I was born a killer. I was meant to kill. Well, no, you weren't.
No, but that's another topic for another day. self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, still though, same idea. I was raised by shitty parents. That's why I had to go kill people. Like, no, you weren't. You just didn't get your way and threw a temper tantrum.
Or you were raised by really bad parents, but you still made a choice.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you have a choice. So, it's just up to you to make the right choice. Because society tries to help you make the right choice, but
society's not always right either.
no. Society's a little jacked up.
No way.
Well, you know. Some people
No,
think it.
no.
Some people might think it's all rainbows and unicorns.
Butterflies.
It's not all rainbows and unicorns. I mean, both of our work experience and work lives will show that much.
If you all know how to, how do I say this delicately? If you all know how to make a lawyer stop talking, please give me ideas and recommendations, please.
And we're going to use the term lawyer very loosely.
Yes. Yes.
Appointed by the state. Let's put it that way. A wannabe.
We'll go with wannabe.
Yeah.
So if you know how to make them be quiet, please comment your suggestions. Because I'm desperate.
I think you're past desperate.
Probably.
It'd be kind of hilarious.
I'm grasping at straws here, people.
Well, it'd be kind of hilarious if anybody from your work did it. And you're like, oh, really? Or if she did.
No, she does not. That would be unprofessional.
Oh.
That's too personal.
Oh.
You're so wrong.
My bad. It's kind of like my job, you know. We don't do things that make sense. No. Common sense. We don't do that.
You make acid.
We make acid, not common sense. Exactly. It's between that and don't fall asleep in the acid. It's kind of our two favorite things.
Or go like this. Put your hand on your forehead when not washing your hands. Otherwise, you get handprint.
No, that's because I was at home. That's because I got transfer from my scrubs. That's okay. It's all gone.
Not yet. Almost.
Oh, basically. It's okay. I don't look too special.
Well.
You're just digging a hole.
Yeah. I should probably end there.
You probably should. I mean, you don't want that card taken away.
You don't know where it's at. Anyway. So, yeah, that's all I've got for today. I just wanted to cover the basics of it to help bring some understanding when we talk to Jean next week.
And Jean's episode will probably be a long one.
Potentially, yeah.
I can already pretty much guarantee it's gonna be a long one. But
my bedtime's at 10.
I don't think it's gonna be that long, but
And yes, I do go to bed at 10 o'clock most nights. Just for the record.
except the weekends.
Yeah, but even by 10 o'clock, I'm usually ready for bed.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit there while you play video games and take a nap.
Or we're out and about, or we're at a late dinner.
Yeah.
Gotta get to that time a little later for Aruba. 'Cause
We'll see.
all the fun we're gonna be having in Aruba.
Yes.
Which we need. We both need vacation, but
I do have a vacation day this week. Because I have to go get my license.
well, aren't you lucky?
Not really, because I don't know what I'm doing in Oklahoma.
Yeah, you have to take a vacation to go deal with the DMV. Have fun.
Yeah, because if I don't, they might try to arrest me. Thank you, identity theft.
Yeah, it's okay.
Listen, I have to carry special papers with me that say I am not that person, don't arrest her.
Well, if they do arrest you, then you can just say, hey, I know these deputies. They'll vouch for me.
No.
That's why you carry your state employee. And then that way they can be like, oh, crap. You're a state employee. All your shit's got to check out.
That makes me so special.
Listen. At the very least, it helps you to say, okay, well, yeah, all right.
Mm-hmm.
The state says you're okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you must be all right. Because they don't just let anybody, well.
Try that again. Lots of people get licensed that shouldn't.
You know. I'm not necessarily saying license, I'm saying more your job.
Oh.
The state of Oklahoma has said, yep, she is who she says she is, and the background check says she's all right.
Well, you
She's
would
not a
think
criminal.
the background check helps, but I took that one time because I couldn't find my paper, and they still wanted to arrest me, even though I just had an FBI background check like 2 weeks before,
Yeah.
and everything came back clean.
Stop getting identity
Whatever. And that's been going on since I was in undergrad, like since I think 2006 or 7.
Somebody just really wanted to be you.
Apparently. I don't know.
Because they knew one day you'd get to me.
But here's the thing. That is also why I will never go back to Arvest Bank again. Because I had a bunch of overdrafts, and when I told them everything that went on, they said, well, we don't believe you. You're just a dumb college student who doesn't know how to take care of her money. I've had a bank account since I was 11. Pretty sure it wasn't me.
Well, you know. Some banks are just special. That's all there is to it.
But anyway, that's all I got for you.
So, yeah, a little shorter episode than last few ones, but we want to make sure we get a good foundation before Gene. And like I say, next one will be with Gene. It has the potential to be a longer one, but it'll be a longer one that's entertaining and informative. You probably get a few good laughs in there, because
It's how we cope with reality.
I was going to mean more the fact that Gene's quite the jokester. And
Again, that's how he probably copes with reality.
no. I was going more. He's quite the jokester in general, because you get me and him together, it gets to be.
That's true.
It gets to be a laugh fest. So we'll definitely try to keep the past stories and let that be another podcast where we can just rile on each other, and people will be nonstop laughing their butts off, and you know that will have to be one episode one day, and that might be one of those that if you listen to it, you might have to go to the bathroom a few times and whatever, just because you're laughing so hard. Because has the potential to do that, but I think that's where we will end it for today, everybody. So, like always, if you have mental health issues, concerns, you're thinking about suicide, or any issue like that,
988. And look in your area, because they are going to be doing a lot of fun activities to help promote it. At least in Oklahoma. I assume it's going to be that way in other states. So take a look at community mental health organizations in your area, and see about going or helping, whatever. And because, like I said, the ones here look like they're going to be fun.
So yeah, 988, and then just remember to keep playing your cards right, because you never know what might happen. We'll see you all next week.